The envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning, certified mail requiring my signature at the front door, while my 7-year-old daughter Lila watched from the kitchen table, still in her pajamas. The delivery man's expression was neutral, professional, but something about the weight of the envelope made my stomach clench. I signed quickly, forcing a smile as I closed the door. "What's that, Mummy?" Lila asked, syrup dripping from her fork. Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. "Just work stuff, sweetheart." I tucked the envelope behind my purse, out of sight. Miles was upstairs getting ready for his job at the software company downtown. I could hear the shower running, buying me precious minutes to figure out what this was about. But first, I needed to rewind, to explain how we got here. How a simple work project with Jonas Heller had spiraled into whatever this envelope represented. It had started, innocently enough, 6 weeks ago. Jonas, the new project manager in our marketing department, had been assigned to help with the quarterly campaign analysis. He was charming in that easy way some men have, quick with compliments, attentive when I spoke during meetings, always offering to grab coffee when I looked stressed. "You're carrying too much of this workload alone," he'd said one evening, as most of the office had emptied out. "Let me help you finish the presentation deck." I should have said no, should have packed up my laptop and driven home to Miles and Lila. Instead, I'd stayed until nearly 10 o'clock, working side by side with Jonas in the conference room, ordering Chinese takeout and laughing at his stories about his previous job in Chicago. When I finally got home that night, Miles was waiting in the living room, Leila already asleep. "Long day?" he asked, looking up from his laptop. "Jonas helped me with the project. We got so much done, I think we'll actually hit the deadline now." I kept my voice light, casual. It was true after all. Jonas had helped. The fact that I'd enjoyed his company more than I'd enjoyed my husband's in months wasn't something I needed to share. Miles nodded, but I caught the slight tightening around his eyes. "That's good. I saved you some dinner." "Thanks, but we ordered Chinese. I'm actually pretty full." The silence stretched between us. Miles closed his laptop with a soft click. "Fane, can I ask you something?" My stomach fluttered. "Of course." How would Jonas's wife describe that help? The question caught me completely off guard. "What do you mean?" "I mean, if she asked him about his evening, how do you think he'd describe working late with a married colleague? Would he mention the laughing I could hear in the background when you called to check on Lila?" Heat flushed my cheeks. "Miles, you're being paranoid. It was work. Jonas is a professional, and so am I. We're trying to save this campaign, and instead of being supportive, you're acting jealous and suspicious." "I'm not jealous. I'm concerned." "About what? That I have a male colleague who actually appreciates my contributions? That someone at work treats me like I'm competent instead of questioning every decision I make?" Miles's face went carefully blank. "I've never questioned your competence." "Haven't you? The way you're questioning this right now suggests otherwise." I was good at this, turning the conversation, making him the problem instead of addressing his concerns. I'd learned early in our marriage that Miles hated conflict, would back down rather than push when I got defensive. "I just think boundaries are important," he said quietly. "Boundaries? Miles, I'm working. I'm trying to advance my career and support our family. If you can't handle that, maybe the problem isn't my boundaries." He stared at me for a long moment, then picked up his laptop. "I'm going to finish this upstairs." After he left, I texted Jonas. "Thanks again for the help tonight. My husband's being weird about it, but don't worry, he'll get over it." Jonas replied quickly. "Glad I could help. Some people just don't understand how demanding our work can be." I smiled at my phone. Finally, someone who understood. What I didn't know was that Miles had quietly started keeping track. The late nights, the increased texting, the way I'd started dressing more carefully for work. He'd begun documenting everything in a small notebook he kept in his desk drawer. The next morning, I called my mother while driving to work. "Mum, I need to vent about Miles for a minute." "What's he done now?" Marlene Greer's voice was immediately sympathetic. She'd never quite warmed to Miles, always thought I could have done better. "He's being paranoid about my work. There's this new project manager, Jonas, who's been helping me with a huge campaign, and Miles is acting like there's something inappropriate about it." "Men can be so insecure," my mother said. "Your father was the same way when I started working with that handsome accountant at the firm. Some husbands just can't handle their wives being successful and working with competent men." "Exactly. Jonas actually listens to my ideas and treats me like an equal. It's refreshing after years of Miles just assuming he knows what's best for everything." "You work hard, sweetheart. Don't let Miles make you feel guilty for having supportive colleagues." I felt vindicated. My mother understood. When I called my sister Sophie later that day, she was even more supportive. "Clingy husbands are the worst," Sophie laughed. "Remember when I was working with that gorgeous contractor on the house renovation? David practically followed me around like a lost puppy. Men just can't handle when we have lives outside of them." But that evening, when I came home from another late night with Jonas, we'd celebrated finishing the presentation at a wine bar near the office. Miles was waiting in the kitchen with a stack of papers. "We need to talk," he said. "Can it wait? I'm exhausted." "Fane, I printed out our phone bill." My blood went cold, but I kept my expression neutral. "Okay?" "You've texted Jonas 437 times in the past 3 weeks. Called him 62 times. Most of these are after work hours." "We're working on a project, Miles. Of course we're communicating." "At 11 p.m., on weekends, there's a 40-minute call at 6:30 this morning." I could feel Lila listening from the living room, where she was supposed to be watching cartoons. This was exactly the kind of stress I'd been trying to avoid. "You went through my phone records. That's a violation of privacy, Miles." "There are phone records. Our family plan. Don't hide behind technicalities. You're spying on me because you can't trust me to do my job without your supervision." "This isn't about your job. Isn't it? You can't handle that I'm successful, that I have colleagues who value my input. So instead of supporting me, you're going through phone records like some kind of detective." Miles set the papers down carefully. "Fane, I love you, but this isn't normal colleague behavior." "According to who? You? When's the last time you worked on a high-pressure project with tight deadlines? When's the last time you had to collaborate closely with anyone?" It was a low blow. Miles worked mostly independently, managing databases and coding. He didn't have the social demands of my job. "That's not fair," he said quietly. "Neither is this interrogation. I'm going to take a bath." As I headed upstairs, I heard Lila ask Miles, "Daddy, why is Mommy upset?" "She's just tired from work, sweetheart." I closed the bathroom door and immediately texted Jonas. "Miles is being impossible about our project. He's actually going through phone records now." Jonas replied, "That's crazy controlling. You don't deserve that kind of treatment." I felt validated again. Jonas understood that Miles was being unreasonable. What I didn't realize was that Miles had taken photos of my text conversations before I deleted them. He'd also started recording our arguments, quietly starting a voice memo app on his phone whenever tensions escalated. The next few days were tense. Miles became increasingly withdrawn, spending more time in his home office, speaking to me only about logistics, who was picking up Leela, what we needed from the grocery store, when the electric bill was due. I told myself he was sulking, being childish. I focused on work, on the successful presentation Jonas and I had delivered, on the praise from our supervisor. "You two make a great team," our boss had said after the client meeting. "I'd like to see you collaborate on the Henderson account next." Jonas and I had exchanged a look of excitement. More projects together, more late nights, more dinners, more of the easy companionship I'd been craving. That evening, I decided to extend an olive branch to Miles. "The presentation went really well today," I said over dinner. The client loved it. That's great, Miles said, not looking up from his plate. Jonas and I are going to be working on the Henderson account together too. Now Miles looked at me. More late nights? Probably. It's a big opportunity for me, Miles. For us, the commission on this could help us finally finish the basement renovation. Right, more help from Jonas. The way he said help made my skin crawl, like he was implying something sordid about a professional collaboration. Yes, more help from Jonas. He's a good colleague and a good friend. Friend? Yes, friend. Is that a problem? Miles was quiet for a long moment. How would you feel if I had a female friend I texted 400 times in 3 weeks? If it was for work, I'd be supportive. Even if I took her to dinner, bought her drinks, stayed out until midnight. We weren't out until midnight, and it was one drink after a successful presentation. According to your location data, you were at Murphy's Wine Bar until 11:45. I set down my fork. You're tracking my location now. It's a family safety feature. It's always been on. This is insane, Miles. You're acting like I'm having an affair instead of doing my job. Are you? The question hung in the air like a bomb. Lila had stopped eating, her eyes wide as she looked between us. How dare you ask me that in front of our daughter? Lila, go watch TV in the living room, Miles said gently, but I'm not done eating. Take your plate with you, sweetheart. After Lila left, Miles looked at me directly. Are you having an affair with Jonas? No, I am not having an affair. I'm working with a colleague who treats me with respect and appreciation. I'm sorry if that threatens you. It doesn't threaten me. It concerns me. The secrecy concerns me. The late nights concern me. The constant texting concerns me. There's no secrecy. I told you about every late night. After the fact. And you didn't mention the dinners, the drinks, the personal conversations I can hear when you're on the phone with him. Because I knew you'd react exactly like this. I knew you'd make something innocent into something ugly. Miles stood up from the table. I don't think I'm the one making this ugly feign. He left the kitchen, and I heard his office door close with a firm click. I finished my dinner alone, anger and frustration building in my chest. Miles was being completely unreasonable. Jonas and I were colleagues, friends at most. Yes, I enjoyed his company. Yes, I looked forward to our conversations. But that didn't mean anything inappropriate was happening. I texted Jonas, "Can't wait to start the Henderson project. At least someone appreciates working with me." He replied, "Your husband's a lucky man. He should realize what he has." The message made me smile. Jonas understood my value in a way Miles seemed to have forgotten. I deleted the conversation and went upstairs to find Miles already in bed, reading. "I'm not the enemy here," I said, sitting on my side of the bed. "I never said you were." "Then stop treating me like one. Stop questioning every friendship, every work relationship. Trust me." Miles looked at me over his book. "I want to trust you, but trust requires honesty." "I've been honest." "Have you?" "Yes." He nodded slowly, then went back to his book. But I could see the doubt in his eyes, the careful distance he was maintaining even in our shared bed. I turned off my light and lay in the darkness, listening to Miles's steady breathing, wondering how a simple work project had created such tension in my marriage. Jonas was helping me succeed professionally. Why couldn't Miles see that? What I couldn't see was that Miles was lying awake too, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out when his wife had started lying to him about everything. Sunday brunch at Rosario's had been a family tradition for months. Miles's mother Maureen, his younger brother Theo, my mother Marlene, and my sister Sophie would gather with us and Lila for pancakes and gossip. It was usually the highlight of my week, a chance to catch up with family and show off how well we were all doing. This Sunday felt different. Miles had been quiet all morning, helping Lila get dressed without his usual chatter, drinking his coffee in silence while reading news on his phone. I'd chosen my outfit carefully, a new blouse I'd bought for work, one that Jonas had complimented, and spent extra time on my makeup. "You look nice," Miles said as we got in the car, but his tone was flat. "Thank you." I decided to try again. "I'm looking forward to seeing everyone. It feels like it's been forever since we all got together." 2 weeks, Miles said. "It's been 2 weeks." Lila chattered from the back seat about a school project, filling the silence between Miles and me. When we arrived at Rosario's, the rest of the family was already seated at our usual corner table. "There's my beautiful granddaughter." Marlene stood to hug Lila, then me. "Fane, you look wonderful. That color's perfect on you." "Thanks, Mum." I hugged her back, grateful for the warmth I wasn't getting from Miles. Maureen offered a more reserved greeting, kissing my cheek politely. She'd always been cordial but distant, the kind of mother-in-law who clearly thought her son could have done better. "How's work going?" Theo asked as we settled into our seats. "Miles mentioned you're working on some big project." "It's going really well, actually. I'm collaborating with a new project manager, Jonas, and we just landed another major account." I kept my voice bright, professional. "That's wonderful," Sophie said. "It's so nice when you find colleagues who really get your vision." "Exactly. Jonas has been incredibly supportive. He really understands the creative process." I caught Miles's slight wince, but continued. "Some people don't realize how demanding creative work can be, how much collaboration and communication it requires." "Communication is important," Maureen said carefully, "in all relationships." "Of course. Jonas and I have great communication. That's why our projects are so successful." The server came to take our orders, giving me a chance to scan the restaurant. That's when I saw them, Jonas and a woman I didn't recognize, seated 3 tables away. My heart skipped, but I managed to keep my expression neutral. "Everything okay?" Sophie asked, following my gaze. "Fine. I just saw someone from work." Miles looked over, and I watched his face harden when he spotted Jonas. The woman with him was pretty, blonde, probably in her early 30s. She was laughing at something Jonas had said, her hand resting on his arm. "Is that him?" Miles asked quietly. "Your project partner?" "Yes, that's Jonas." I forced a smile. "Looks like he's on a date." "Good for him," Maureen said. "It's nice when single people find companionship." "Oh, he's not single," I said without thinking. "He has a girlfriend. That must be her." The table went quiet. I realized my mistake immediately. How would I know about Jonas's relationship status unless we'd discussed personal matters? "You know about his girlfriend?" Theo asked. "We're friends. Colleagues talk about their lives sometimes." "Of course they do," Marlene said supportively. "There's nothing wrong with being friendly with coworkers." But I could see the skeptical look Maureen exchanged with Miles. Before I could address it, Jonas appeared at our table. "Fane, what a coincidence." His smile was warm, familiar. "I hope you don't mind me interrupting your family brunch." "Not at all. Everyone, this is Jonas Heller, my project partner. Jonas, this is my family." Jonas shook hands around the table, charming everyone with his easy confidence. "Fane's been incredible to work with. You should be proud. She's one of the most talented people in our department." "We are proud," Marlene beamed. "She's always been driven." "It shows. We make a great team." Jonas's eyes lingered on mine a moment too long. "Is that your girlfriend over there?" Sophie asked, nodding toward his table. "Yes, that's Rebecca. We should get back. She's not thrilled about me abandoning her for work talk." He laughed, but I caught the slight tension in his voice. After Jonas left, the table felt charged with unspoken questions. "He seems nice," Theo said diplomatically. "Very charming," Maureen added, but her tone suggested that wasn't necessarily a compliment. "Some people are just naturally charismatic," I said. "It makes him great at client relations." "I'm sure it does," Miles said quietly. The rest of brunch was strained. Conversation moved to safer topics: Lila's school, Theo's new apartment, Marlene's book club. but I could feel the undercurrent of judgment, especially from Maureen. When we were leaving, Rebecca appeared in the parking lot, walking quickly toward her car. She looked upset, her face flushed. "Trouble in paradise?" Sophie murmured. "It's none of our business," I said, but I was curious. Had they fought about Jonas coming over to our table? As we drove home, Miles was silent again. Lila fell asleep in her car seat, leaving us alone with the tension. "That was awkward," I finally said. "Was it?" "Jonas was just being polite by saying hello." "Very polite, very friendly." "Miles, please don't start this again." "I'm not starting anything. I'm just observing that your colleague seems very comfortable with our family, very interested in making a good impression. He was being professional." "Was he being professional when he said you make a great team? When he looked at you like that?" "Like what?" "Like he knows you better than your husband does." I felt heat rise in my cheeks. "You're being ridiculous." "Am I?" Because from where I was sitting, it looked like he was marking territory. "Marking territory? He has a girlfriend, Miles." "You saw her?" "Yeah, I saw her. I also saw how upset she looked when she left." We pulled into our driveway, and I waited until we'd gotten Lila inside and settled with a movie before confronting Miles in the kitchen. "I don't appreciate you embarrassing me in front of our families." "How did I embarrass you?" "Your attitude, the way you were glaring at Jonas, making everyone uncomfortable." "I didn't say a word to Jonas." "You didn't have to. Your disapproval was obvious." Miles leaned against the counter, studying me. "Fane, can I ask you something honestly?" "Of course." "If the situation were reversed, if I had a female colleague I texted constantly, worked late with regularly, and who showed up at family brunch to compliment me in front of my wife, how would you feel?" I opened my mouth to say I'd be fine with it, but the word stuck. The truth was, I'd be furious. I'd be suspicious and hurt and probably confrontational. "That's different," I said instead. "How?" "Because you're not in a creative field. You don't need that kind of collaboration." "So it's okay because it's your job?" "It's okay because it's innocent. Jonas and I are friends and colleagues, nothing more." Miles nodded slowly. "Okay, if you say so." But I could see he didn't believe me. Worse, I could see that he was hurt, not just suspicious, but genuinely wounded by what he perceived as betrayal. That night, after Lila was in bed, I called Sophie. "What did you think of Jonas?" I asked. "He's gorgeous," she said immediately, "and clearly smitten with you." "Sophie, he's not smitten. He's friendly." "Honey, I've been married for 8 years. I know the difference between friendly and interested. That man is interested." "Well, I'm not. I'm married." "I know you are, but I also know you've been unhappy with Miles lately." "I haven't been unhappy." "Haven't you? You've been complaining about him for months. How he doesn't appreciate you, how he's boring, how he doesn't understand your ambitions." I was quiet. Sophie was right. I had been complaining about Miles. When had that started? "Miles is a good man," Sophie continued, "but maybe he's not the right man for where you are in your life now. Maybe you've outgrown him." "Sophie, I can't just outgrow my husband. We have a daughter." "I'm not saying you should leave him. I'm saying maybe you should figure out what you really want before you make any decisions." After we hung up, I sat in the living room thinking about what Sophie had said. Had I outgrown Miles? We'd been together since college, married for 9 years. Maybe we'd just grown apart, become different people with different needs. Jonas understood my ambitions. He appreciated my creativity, my drive. When I talked to him about ideas, he listened with genuine interest instead of the polite attention Miles offered. I texted Jonas, "Thanks for being so nice to my family today. It meant a lot." He replied quickly, "Your family seems great. Lucky to have you." Then, "Rebecca wasn't thrilled about me knowing your personal life so well. Apparently I talk about you too much." My heart fluttered. "You talk about me?" "Hard not to. You're the most interesting person at work." I stared at the message. feeling a warmth I hadn't felt in months. When was the last time Miles had called me interesting? I deleted the conversation and went upstairs, where Miles was already in bed with his laptop. "Working?" I asked, just checking some things. I got ready for bed, hyper-aware of the distance between us. When I slipped under the covers, Miles closed his laptop and turned off his light without saying goodnight. I lay in the darkness, thinking about Jonas's messages, about the way he'd looked at me at brunch, about Rebecca's upset face in the parking lot. Nothing had happened, nothing inappropriate, but something was shifting, and I wasn't sure I wanted to stop it. What I didn't know was that Miles had spent the evening researching divorce attorneys, reading about custody arrangements, and quietly transferring money into a separate account. The war hadn't started yet, but both sides were already choosing weapons. Monday morning arrived with an email that made my stomach drop. The subject line read, "You should see what's being shared," and it came from an address I didn't recognize. I opened it at my desk, coffee growing cold as I read. "Thought you should know there's a video going around from last Friday night. Might want to do some damage control." Attached was a grainy cell phone video, clearly taken from across the street. It showed Jonas and me outside Murphy's wine bar, standing closer than I remembered, his hand on my lower back as he helped me into a taxi. The timestamp showed 11:47 p.m. My hand shook as I deleted the email. Who had taken this? Who was sending it around? "Morning, Fane." My supervisor, Patricia Wells, appeared at my cubicle. "Can I see you in my office for a few minutes?" My mouth went dry. "Of course." Patricia's office overlooked the main floor, glass walls that usually made me feel important when I was called in for meetings. Today they felt like a fishbowl, exposing me to curious stares from my colleagues. "Close the door," Patricia said, settling behind her desk with a folder. I sat across from her, trying to project calm confidence. "I've received some concerns about your conduct with Jonas Heller," Patricia said without preamble. "What kind of concerns?" "The kind that could create liability issues for the company. There's been talk about after-hours socializing, inappropriate familiarity, and now there's apparently video evidence circulating." Heat flooded my face. Patricia, Jonas, and I are working on major projects together. Sometimes that requires after-hours collaboration. Collaboration that ends with him putting you in a taxi at midnight outside a wine bar? We had one drink after a successful presentation. It was a celebration, nothing more. Patricia opened the folder and slid a printed email across the desk. It was from our HR department, timestamped this morning at 7:23 a.m. Jonas requested to be reassigned from the Henderson account. He cited personal complications and asked to work with other team members going forward. My world tilted. He what? He's also requested that all future interactions with you be documented and include a third party. Fane, that's the kind of request people make when they're protecting themselves from harassment claims. Harassment? I never harassed anyone. If anything, Jonas was the one who... I stopped myself. Who what? Nothing. This is ridiculous. Jonas and I have a professional relationship. Had. Past tense. As of this morning, you'll be working with Jennifer Martinez on the Henderson account. Jonas will be transitioning to the Morrison project. I felt like I'd been slapped. You're punishing me for rumors. I'm protecting the company from potential legal issues, and protecting you from further speculation. What speculation? Who's speculating? Patricia's expression softened slightly. Fane, you're a talented employee, but you're also a married woman who's been spending significant time with a male colleague outside of work. People notice. People talk. People are jealous of my success. Maybe, but perception matters. And right now, the perception is that your relationship with Jonas crossed professional boundaries. I left Patricia's office feeling humiliated and angry. Back at my desk, I tried to focus on work, but I could feel eyes on me. Whispered conversations that stopped when I walked by. Knowing looks exchanged across the office. At lunch, I called my mother. This is exactly why women struggle in corporate environments, Marlene said after I explained the situation. The moment you're successful, the moment you form productive partnerships with men, people assume the worst. I feel like I'm being punished for doing my job well. You are, and it's not fair. What does Miles think about all this? I haven't told him yet. He's already been paranoid about Jonas. This will just make him worse. Maybe you shouldn't tell him. Why create drama at home over workplace gossip? That seemed reasonable. Miles was already suspicious. Why fuel his paranoia with office rumors that would blow over in a few days? But when I got home that evening, Miles was waiting in the kitchen with his laptop open. "How was work?" he asked. "Fine, busy." I started pulling ingredients from the refrigerator for dinner. "Anything interesting happen?" Something in his tone made me look at him. "Like what?" "I don't know. Just wondering if you had a good day." "It was fine, Miles. Normal day." He nodded and closed his laptop. "Good. I'm glad things are normal." But nothing felt normal. At work the next day, Jonas avoided me completely. When we passed in the hallway, he gave a polite nod but didn't stop to chat. In meetings, he addressed his comments to other team members, looking past me as if I weren't there. The rejection stung more than I wanted to admit. For weeks, Jonas had been my closest ally at work, the person who understood my ideas and supported my ambitions. Now he was treating me like a stranger. I tried texting him. "Can we talk about the Henderson transition? I want to make sure Jennifer has all the background she needs." He replied hours later, "Please coordinate with Jennifer directly. I've already briefed her." The coldness of his response was devastating. I deleted our entire text history, not wanting to see the contrast between his recent warmth and current distance. By Thursday, the whispers had died down, but the damage was done. I felt isolated, embarrassed, and increasingly angry at the unfairness of it all. I'd done nothing wrong, yet I was being treated like I'd committed some crime. That evening, I decided to take control of the narrative. I posted on Facebook, "It's disappointing when workplace jealousy leads to rumors and gossip. Some people can't handle seeing others succeed through hard work and professional collaboration. To those spreading lies about my character and my marriage, you don't know me, and you don't know my family. Focus on your own lives." The post got immediate responses. Sophie liked it and commented, "Some people have nothing better to do than tear down successful women." My mother added, "You've always been above petty gossip, sweetheart. Keep your head high." But there were other responses too. Comments from people I barely knew, asking what had happened, whether everything was okay with Miles and me. I deleted those quickly. Miles saw the post while we were watching TV. "What's this about?" he asked, showing me his phone. "Just some workplace drama. People with too much time on their hands." "What kind of drama?" "Nothing serious. You know how officers can be." Miles stared at the post for a long moment. "Fane, what aren't you telling me?" "Nothing. It's just gossip and I'm tired of it." "Gossip about what?" I sighed, realizing I couldn't avoid this conversation. "Someone took a video of Jonas and me leaving the wine bar last Friday. People are making it into something it wasn't." Miles's face went very still. "What kind of video?" "Nothing dramatic, just us on the sidewalk. But you know how people are. They see a man and woman together and assume the worst." "Can I see it?" I deleted it. It was stupid and invasive. "Someone sent it to you?" "Anonymously. Probably someone from work trying to cause trouble." Miles was quiet for a long time. "What did it show exactly?" "Nothing. Us talking on the sidewalk, him helping me get a taxi." "Helping you how?" I felt trapped by his questions. "I don't know, Miles. Normal helping. What does it matter?" "It matters because my wife is posting on social media about lies and rumors, and I don't know what's true anymore. What's true is that I'm being harassed at work for having a professional relationship with a male colleague. What's true is that people are spreading gossip about me because they're jealous of my success." And what's true about your relationship with Jonas? We're colleagues. We were friends. Now, thanks to all this drama, we can barely speak to each other. We're friends. He's been reassigned to different projects. Apparently, he doesn't want to deal with the rumors either. Miles absorbed this information. So you won't be working together anymore? No. Patricia moved me to work with Jennifer Martinez instead. How do you feel about that? The question caught me off guard. How did I feel? Disappointed, hurt, angry that something good had been ruined by small-minded people. I feel like I've been punished for doing my job well, I said. Miles nodded slowly. Okay. Okay what? Okay, I understand why you're upset. But I could see he didn't believe my version of events. Worse, I was starting to realize that my version might not be the complete truth. That night, I lay awake thinking about the past few weeks. Had I encouraged Jonas's attention? Had I enjoyed it more than I should have? Had I crossed lines I didn't want to acknowledge? The answer scared me more than Miles's suspicions or the office gossip. The answer was yes. The call from Lila's teacher came on Friday afternoon, while I was struggling through a particularly awkward meeting with Jennifer Martinez. We were trying to salvage the Henderson account after Jonas's abrupt departure, but the client was asking pointed questions about the team changes. Mrs. Varell, this is Sarah Chen, Lila's teacher. I was wondering if you could come in for a brief conference next week. My stomach clenched. Is everything okay? Is Lila in trouble? No, nothing like that. I just have some concerns about her behavior lately, and I'd like to discuss them with you and your husband. What kind of concerns? I'd prefer to discuss this in person. Would Monday after school work for you? I agreed and hung up, my mind racing. Lila had seemed fine at home, maybe a little quieter than usual, but nothing alarming. What had her teacher noticed that I'd missed? When I picked Lila up from school that afternoon, I studied her carefully. She seemed normal, chattering about her friend Emma's birthday party and complaining about the cafeteria's pizza. How are things at school, sweetheart? I asked as we drove home. Good. Mrs. Chen says I'm getting better at math. That's wonderful. Are you happy in her class? Yeah, she's nice. She asks about you and Daddy sometimes. What kind of questions? Like if you're okay. If you're sad about something. Warning bells went off in my head. Why would she think I'm sad? I don't know. Maybe because you cry sometimes. I nearly swerved into the next lane. When do I cry? At night, when you're on the phone, and sometimes when you and Daddy are talking in the kitchen. My heart broke a little. I thought we were keeping our problems away from Lila, but children notice everything. Sweetheart, Mommy and Daddy are just working through some grown-up stuff. It's nothing for you to worry about. Are you getting divorced? The question hit me like a physical blow. Why would you ask that? Emma's parents got divorced last year. She said they used to fight a lot and be sad, and then her daddy moved to an apartment. I pulled into our driveway and turned to face Lila fully. Mommy and Daddy are not getting divorced. We love each other, and we love you. Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements, but that doesn't mean we're going to split up our family. Lila nodded, but I could see the worry in her 7-year-old eyes. That evening, I told Miles about the teacher conference. What do you think it's about? He asked. She mentioned concerns about Lila's behavior, and Lila said Mrs. Chen asks about us sometimes. Miles was quiet. She's been asking me about you too. What do you mean? Little questions. If you're okay, if you're happy. Yesterday she asked if you still love Daddy. The words hit me like ice water. What did you tell her? I told her that Mommy and Daddy love each other very much. But Fane, she's picking up on the tension. Kids always do. There doesn't have to be tension. We can fix this. Can we? Because I feel like we're further apart than ever. I wanted to argue, but he was right. The distance between us had grown into a chasm. We barely spoke beyond logistics, rarely touched, and when we did interact, it was strained and careful. Maybe we should see someone, I said. A counselor. Are you willing to be honest with a counselor? What does that mean? It means, are you willing to admit that your relationship with Jonas was inappropriate? Are you willing to acknowledge that you've been lying to me? I haven't been lying. Haven't you? The late nights you said were work meetings but were actually dinners. The texts you delete. The way you light up when he calls but barely look at me when I come home. Miles, I'm not stupid, Fane. I know something happened between you two. I don't know how far it went, but I know it went beyond professional collaboration. I felt cornered, exposed. Nothing physical happened. But something emotional did. I couldn't deny it anymore. Maybe, I don't know, it was confusing. What was confusing about it? He made me feel appreciated, valued, like my ideas mattered. And I don't. Not lately. Lately, you make me feel like everything I do is wrong, like you're just waiting for me to mess up so you can say, I told you so. Miles stared at me for a long moment. Is that really how you see me? As someone who wants you to fail? Sometimes. Jesus, Fane, when did we get here? I didn't have an answer. Somewhere along the way, we'd stopped being partners and started being adversaries. But I wasn't ready to take responsibility for that shift. The teacher conference on Monday was as uncomfortable as I'd feared. Mrs. Chen was kind but direct. Lila has been showing signs of anxiety lately. She's more withdrawn in class, less focused on her work. She's also been asking a lot of questions about family structures, divorce, and what happens to children when parents separate. Miles and I exchanged glances. Has she said anything specific about our family? I asked. She mentioned that Mommy and Daddy don't talk much anymore, and that you've been sad. She's also expressed worry about having to choose between parents if you break up. We're not breaking up, I said quickly. I'm glad to hear that, but children are very perceptive. They pick up on emotional undercurrents that adults think they're hiding. Mrs. Chen pulled out a drawing Lila had made during art time. It showed our family. 3 stick figures standing far apart from each other, with sad faces and tears. This is how Lila sees your family right now, Mrs. Chen said gently, separated and unhappy. I felt tears prick my eyes. This wasn't what I'd wanted. I'd never intended for our problems to affect Lila. What can we do? Miles asked. Family counseling might be helpful. And in the meantime, try to present a united front at home. Children need to feel secure in their family structure. After the conference, Miles and I sat in the parking lot in silence. We have to fix this, I said finally. I want to, but I need honesty from you, Fane. Complete honesty. About what? About Jonas. About what really happened between you two. I took a deep breath. I developed feelings for him. I didn't act on them, but I had them. I looked forward to seeing him, to working with him. I felt more connected to him than I did to you. Miles's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Thank you for telling me that. I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go that far. But it did go that far, and now our daughter is suffering because of it. It's not just my fault. We've both been distant. You're right, we have been, but I didn't develop feelings for someone else. The accusation hung between us. I wanted to defend myself, to explain how lonely I'd felt, how underappreciated. But looking at Lila's drawing, none of those excuses seemed to matter. What do we do now? I asked. I don't know, but we have to do something, for Lila's sake. That evening, we made an effort to have dinner together as a family, to talk and laugh and pretend everything was normal. Lila brightened immediately, chattering about school and asking if we could go to the zoo on Saturday. That sounds like a great idea, Miles said, smiling at our daughter. For a moment, it felt like we might be able to fix this, like our family might survive the damage I'd caused. But that night, as I was putting Lila to bed, she asked me a question that shattered my hope. Mommy, do you still love Daddy the way you used to? I looked into my daughter's trusting eyes and realized I didn't know the answer. I love Daddy very much, I said carefully. But do you love him the way married people are supposed to love each other? out of the mouths of babes. My 7-year-old had identified the core issue that I'd been avoiding. Yes, sweetheart, I do. But as I said the words, I knew they weren't true, and from the look in Lila's eyes, she knew it too. The support I'd counted on began crumbling on a Tuesday evening in late October. I was scrolling through Facebook, trying to distract myself from the growing tension at home, when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Sophie had shared an article about emotional affairs in marriage. The caption read, "Sometimes the people we love make choices that hurt everyone around them. Supporting someone doesn't mean enabling their destructive behavior." My hands shook as I called her immediately. "Sophie, what the hell is that post supposed to mean?" "Fane, we need to talk." "About what? About you passive-aggressively attacking me on social media? About the fact that you're destroying your marriage and you won't admit it?" I felt like I'd been slapped. "Excuse me?" "I've been thinking about everything you've told me about Jonas, about Miles, about work, and I realized I've been enabling you instead of being honest with you." "Enabling me to do what?" "To lie to yourself, to justify behavior that you know is wrong." "I haven't done anything wrong." "Haven't you?" "Fane, you developed feelings for another man. You spent weeks lying to your husband about the nature of your relationship with Jonas. You put your marriage and your daughter's stability at risk for what? Some workplace flirtation." "It wasn't a flirtation. It was a professional relationship that what? That accidentally turned into late-night dinners and constant texting and you lighting up whenever he called." I was silent, stung by the accuracy of her words. "Miles called me yesterday," Sophie continued. "He what?" "He's worried about you, about Lila, about what this is doing to your family." "Miles had no right to call you." "He had every right. He's your husband, and he's scared he's losing you to someone who doesn't even want you anymore." The cruelty of that last statement took my breath away. "Sophie, how can you say that to me?" "Because it's true. Jonas dropped you the second things got complicated. He's protecting his own reputation while you're still defending what happened between you." "Nothing happened between us." "Something happened. Maybe not physical, but something emotional happened. And you know it." After Sophie hung up, I sat in my car in the grocery store parking lot, crying harder than I had in months. My sister, my closest ally, had abandoned me. Worse, she'd sided with Miles. I called my mother, desperate for support. "Mum, Sophie's being horrible to me. She's taking Miles's side instead of supporting her own sister." "Honey, maybe you should listen to what people are trying to tell you." My heart sank. "Not you too." "Fane, I love you, but I've been watching this situation unfold and I'm worried about you. About your judgment." "My judgment?" "You're a married woman with a child. Your first priority should be your family, not some workplace romance." "It wasn't a romance." "Then why are you so devastated that it's over?" The question hit me like a physical blow. Why was I so devastated? If Jonas had just been a colleague, why did his rejection hurt so much? "I have to go," I said, and hung up before my mother could respond. That night, Miles was working late in his office. I knocked on the door. "Can we talk?" He looked up from his computer, his face carefully neutral. "Of course." "Sophie told me you called her." "I did." "Why?" "Because I'm scared, Fane. I'm scared that our marriage is falling apart, and I don't know how to fix it." "So you went to my family behind my back?" "I went to people who care about you, people I hoped might be able to help you see what this is doing to all of us." "What this is doing? You mean what you're doing? You're the one who turned my family against me." Miles closed his laptop and looked at me directly. "I didn't turn anyone against you. I told them the truth about what's been happening in our marriage." "Your version of the truth?" "The version where my wife developed feelings for another man and has been lying to me about it for months. That version?" I felt cornered, desperate. "Fine. You want the truth." "Yes, I had feelings for Jonas. Yes, I looked forward to seeing him. But nothing physical happened, and it's over now. Is it over because you chose to end it, or because he rejected you? The question was like a knife to the heart because we both knew the answer. It doesn't matter why it ended. It does matter. It matters because you're not sorry it happened. You're sorry it didn't work out the way you wanted. I wanted to deny it, but the words wouldn't come. Was he right? Was I mourning the loss of possibility with Jonas more than I was fighting for my marriage? I don't know how to fix this, I admitted. I don't either, but I know that Lila can't keep living in a house where her parents barely speak to each other. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe we need to consider separation, at least temporarily. You want me to move out? I want us to figure out what we both really want, because right now, it feels like we're just going through the motions. The next few days were a blur of tense conversations and careful politeness. We told Lila that Daddy was going to stay at Uncle Theo's for a while, just to give everyone some space to think. Is it because of me? Lila asked, her eyes filling with tears. No, sweetheart, Miles said, kneeling down to her level. This is about grown-up problems. You didn't do anything wrong. But you're still leaving. Just for a little while. I'll still see you every day. I'll still pick you up from school and help you with homework. Watching Miles pack a bag was one of the hardest things I'd ever experienced. This wasn't what I'd wanted. I'd never intended for things to go this far. But as I helped him carry boxes to his car, I realized that part of me felt relieved. The constant tension, the careful conversations, the pretending, it would all stop now. I'll call you tomorrow about the custody schedule, Miles said as he loaded the last box. Custody schedule? Fane, we're separated. We need to figure out logistics. This is temporary, right? We're just taking time to think. Miles looked at me for a long moment. I hope so, but I can't promise that anymore. After he left, I sat in our empty house with Lila, trying to explain why Daddy wasn't coming home. Emma's daddy didn't come home either, Lila said quietly, and then he never came back. This is different, sweetheart. How? I didn't have an answer for her. How was this different? Miles was gone, our family was broken, and I was alone with the consequences of choices I still didn't fully understand. That night, I posted on Facebook again, going through a difficult time. Thank you to those who have offered support, to those spreading judgment and gossip. You don't know the whole story. The post got fewer likes than usual. Sophie didn't respond at all. My mother called an hour later. Fane, you need to stop posting about this online. Why? I'm just asking for support. You're making this public in a way that's going to hurt you later, and hurt Lila. How is asking for support going to hurt Lila? Because everything you post can be used against you if this goes to court. Court? Mum, we're separated, not divorced. Honey, you need to start thinking about the possibility that Miles might not come back. The reality of that statement hit me like a truck. Miles might not come back. Our marriage might actually be over. And it would be my fault. The certified envelope arrived on a grey Thursday morning in November, exactly 3 weeks after Miles had moved out. Lila was at school, and I was working from home, trying to focus on the Morrison account while fielding increasingly concerned calls from my mother. I signed for the envelope with shaking hands, recognizing the return address immediately. Hartwell and Associates, Family Law. Inside were divorce papers, not separation papers, not reconciliation counseling information. Divorce papers, with a custody proposal that made my knees buckle. Miles was asking for primary custody of Lila. I called him immediately, my voice shaking with rage and panic. How dare you file for divorce without talking to me first? We've been talking for months, Fane. You just haven't been listening. And custody? You're trying to take my daughter away from me. I'm trying to protect her from an unstable environment. Unstable? I'm her mother. You're also someone who's been making increasingly poor decisions. Someone who's been prioritizing her own emotional needs over her family's well-being. That's not true. Isn't it? When's the last time you helped Lila with homework without being distracted by your phone? When's the last time you attended a school event without checking work emails? When's the last time you put our daughter's needs before your own? I wanted to argue, but the examples he was asking for wouldn't come. Had I been that distracted, that absent? I want to meet, I said. Face to face. We need to talk about this. Fine. My lawyer's office tomorrow at 10 a.m. I don't need a lawyer for a conversation. Yes, you do, because this isn't just a conversation anymore. I spent the rest of the day calling family law attorneys, finally finding one who could meet with me that evening. Sarah Rodriguez was young but sharp, and she didn't sugarcoat the situation after reviewing Miles's filing. He's building a case for custodial interference, she said, claims that your emotional affair created an unstable home environment for your daughter. It wasn't an affair. Nothing physical happened. Emotional affairs can be just as damaging in custody cases, especially when there's evidence. What evidence? Sarah pulled out a thick folder. Text messages, call logs, witness statements, documentation of your daughter's declining school performance, and behavioral issues. My stomach dropped. How does he have all that? He's been documenting everything for months. Your husband is very thorough. He's been spying on me. He's been protecting his interests and his daughter's interests, and frankly, he's built a compelling case. The meeting at the law office the next morning was a nightmare. Miles sat across from me at a polished conference table, flanked by his attorney, David Hartwell, a silver-haired man with kind eyes and a reputation for winning custody cases. Miles looked different, calmer, more confident than I'd seen him in months. Before we begin, Hartwell said, I want to clarify that we're here to discuss settlement terms, not to negotiate reconciliation. Settlement terms? I looked at my lawyer. I thought this was a mediation. Mrs. Varell, Hartwell continued, my client has been very patient. He's given you multiple opportunities to address the issues in your marriage. You've chosen not to take them. That's not true. I've been trying to fix things. Hartwell opened a folder and began laying out printed documents like cards on a table. These are text messages between you and Jonas Heller, dated over a 6-week period. He spread out page after page of conversations I thought I'd deleted. These are call logs showing 847 calls and texts between you and Mr. Heller, 73% of which occurred outside of business hours. More papers. These are expense reports showing dinners, drinks, and taxi rides that you claimed as business expenses, but which occurred during personal socializing. My face burned with shame and anger. This is a video taken outside Murphy's Wine Bar on October 15th, showing inappropriate physical contact between you and Mr. Heller. The grainy video played on a tablet, showing Jonas's hand on my back, my body leaning into his as we talked on the sidewalk. These are witness statements from your coworkers describing your behavior with Mr. Heller as inappropriate, unprofessional, and concerning. And these, Hartwell said, laying out the final stack of papers, are reports from your daughter's teacher documenting declining academic performance, increased anxiety, and behavioral issues directly correlated with the timeline of your relationship with Mr. Heller. I stared at the evidence spread across the table. Months of my life reduced to damning documentation. How did you get all this? I whispered. Miles spoke for the first time. I saved everything, Fane. Every lie, every deleted conversation, every time you chose him over our family. I never chose him over our family. Didn't you? You spent more time texting him than talking to me. You knew more about his life than you knew about Lila's school projects. You lit up when he called, but barely acknowledged me when I came home. Miles, please, we can fix this. No, we can't, because you're still not taking responsibility for what you did. Hartwell pulled out another document. This is a custody proposal. Mr. Varell is asking for primary physical custody with supervised visitation for you until you complete counseling and demonstrate stable behavior. Supervised visitation? You're treating me like I'm dangerous. You're not dangerous, Miles said quietly, but you're not stable. And Layla needs stability. I'm her mother. Being a mother is more than biology, Fane. It's about putting your child's needs first. It's about making good decisions. It's about being present. I looked at my lawyer, desperate for support. She shook her head slightly. Mrs. Varell, Hartwell said, we're prepared to offer you a settlement that includes generous financial support and a path to shared custody if you agree to counseling and certain behavioral modifications. What kind of modifications? No contact with Jonas Heller, counseling for emotional affairs and marriage recovery, parenting classes, and a social media restriction regarding this case. You want to control what I post online? We want to protect Lila from having her family's private business broadcast on social media. I thought about my recent Facebook posts, the angry rants about being misunderstood and mistreated. Had I been hurting Lila with those posts? What if I refuse? Then we go to trial, Hartwell said, and based on the evidence we have, I'm confident we'll win full custody. The room was silent except for the sound of my heart pounding. Everything I'd thought I knew about my life, my marriage, my rights as a mother, was crumbling around me. I need time to think, I said. You have 48 hours, Hartwell replied. After that, we proceed to trial. As we gathered our papers, Miles looked at me one last time. I didn't want it to come to this, Fane. I wanted us to work it out, but you made choices that put our daughter at risk, and I can't let that continue. Miles, please. I hope you'll take the settlement. I hope you'll get the help you need. And I hope someday you'll understand that this isn't about punishing you, it's about protecting Lila. He left without another word, and I sat in the conference room staring at the evidence of my destroyed marriage spread across the table like a crime scene. That evening, I called Jonas for the first time since he'd been reassigned. His number had been disconnected. I drove by his apartment. His car was gone, and a "For Rent" sign hung in the window. Jonas Heller had disappeared from my life as quickly as he'd entered it, leaving me to face the consequences of our relationship alone. I spent the night reading through the settlement proposal, finally understanding the full scope of what I'd lost: my marriage, my family, my reputation, my relationship with my daughter, all for a man who'd vanished the moment things got complicated. At 9 a.m. on Saturday, I called my lawyer. I'll take the settlement, I said. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. Miles got primary custody. I got supervised visitation, court-ordered counseling, and the knowledge that I'd destroyed the best thing in my life for a fantasy that had never been real. On the day I signed the final papers, Miles was waiting outside the courthouse with Lila. "Mommy," she ran to me, and I held her tight, breathing in the scent of her shampoo. "I love you so much, sweetheart." "I love you too. Daddy says you're going to get better, and then maybe I can stay with you sometimes." I looked at Miles over Lila's head. His expression was sad but resolute. "Maybe," I said. "Mommy's going to work very hard to get better." As they drove away, I sat in my car and finally understood what I'd done. I'd traded my family for the attention of a man who'd never really wanted me. I'd chosen fantasy over reality, excitement over stability, and my own emotional needs over my daughter's well-being. The receipts were all there, laid out in black and white in a lawyer's office. Every text, every call, every choice that had led me here. I told myself it was just a project, just help from a colleague, just friendship. But the evidence told a different story. The evidence told the truth I'd been refusing to see. I'd had an emotional affair that destroyed my marriage and damaged my daughter. And now I had to live with the consequences.